Hey.
Hello and welcome to the Even Stevens Ranked podcast, the podcast for all things Even Stevens. I'm Brittany Butler.
I'm Blake Thompson. No, I'm just playing. I'm Ethan Brem.
Woo, okay. And today we are talking about Season 1, Episode 6, Lewis in the Middle. This originally premiered July 22nd, 2000. As we talked about in our last episode, this was number 5 in production, which after viewing this again, I think would have made a heck of a lot more sense.
Oh, 100%.
It was directed by Jonathan Winfrey and written by Mark Fink. This episode has a 7.3 on IMDb, which is a little lower than some of the ones so far. So I've been deciding to check TV.com more frequently now with this, because I think that's kind of interesting. This episode is dead last ranked on TV.com for the entire series.
Last?
So
there's someone out there who thought that In Ren We Trust is a better episode.
Was better than this. Like, absolutely not. I mean, the ratings on TV.com are really generous. This is rated dead last, but it still has an 8.0.
Yeah, so it's Even Stevens fans rating it, though, too, right? So I had this ranked at 57 on my personal list out of 65.
Yep. And I have this one at 44.
Okay.
Which isn't too far off from yours, but I mean, I consider the 40s to I've said this before, but like the closer it gets to 25, more of like above average. But let's just do the synopsis first and then get into the general thoughts. So the IMDb synopsis is really to the point. It just says, Lewis saves a popular student's life.
Yep.
That's it.
That's what happens.
But there is also a subplot with Ren. I just wanted to read my little synopsis on my review. I said, Lewis coincidentally saves big shot on campus Blake Thompson's life, who's clearly not 14 years old and only in this one episode, by stopping him from choking on a piece of steak. After that, Blake welcomes Lewis into his entourage, even calling him his main man, but it doesn't take long for things to go south.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, there's romantic tension between Larry and Ren, and we need to talk about it.
Oh my gosh. The most. Probably in this entire show.
I think other than Raiders of the Lost Sausage, where they're tied together, right? I think that episode and this one are like the two go-to episodes for if you want any sort of proof that Larry and Ren should have eventually got together. Yeah,
those are the two that like pop in my head immediately when I think of that kind of would be, should be storyline. But it is
palpable.
Yeah. And it gets like kind of almost cheesy at like a couple points.
A little bit, yeah.
Oh, it must be Erich Van Lowe.
Erich Van Lowe, yep. Well, yeah, finally, this is the last episode in the Erich Van Lowe Saga.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Which I'm actually really happy to be wrapping up. But honestly, I'm going to say, I'm putting it out there. Out of the 6 Erich Van Lowe episodes, I think this might be the best one.
Yeah. I mean, I think I ranked 2 of them higher. I want to say, What'll Idol Do? Oh yeah, I definitely ranked that one higher. I like that episode. And then I think I ranked the swap.com higher.
No, I did as well. I ranked both of those higher as well.
I would probably stick to that, but I actually really liked the direction in this episode. I thought there were some really kind of fun cuts that are like subtle details that I like about Even Stevens. For Jonathan Winfrey, he also directed a couple of later episodes, Snow Job, Thin Ice, Starstruck, which is one of my personal favorites, and Get a Job.
Oh.
And all of those I kind of have lower on my list, except for Starstruck. I don't know. I just upon watching it this time, I usually don't look forward to this episode because it's just kind of dry. It's just kind of like a weird, kind of quirky episode, I guess, which is good. But I actually really enjoyed it this time. Watching it.
Me too.
A couple of years, probably last time I watched this episode, and I really liked it. I was laughing a couple times, like pretty harder than I remembered. Laughing.
No, I really was too.
Because last time I watched it, I was like binging it. I was like watching them all like together. So like amidst the first 6 episodes, I mean, it's kind of in the middle, I'd say, as far as like entertainment value. But like the last episode I watched was a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. So like isolated like that, like it's a fun episode, and that's how you watched it when you were a kid, right? Because you weren't binging it as a kid. So I liked it.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Quickly, you mentioned with the direction, I also noticed a lot more like fast motion cuts in this one.
Yeah.
Like they really stood out to me. Like I know the show always does it, but I feel like they maybe did it a little too much in this episode.
Yeah, there weren't any montages really, which I like. And I always say that montages are kind of like
a cheap sort of way. Yeah,
it's like a little gimmick to waste time in like to thin out the plot, but there wasn't really any in this one, which was cool.
I think if you're judging the episode in relation to the entire series, I'm still okay with putting it at 44. But out of the first 6, I might have had the most fun watching this one.
Really?
Yeah.
I'd probably put maybe 1 or 2 higher on it than that, but I had All About Yvette at 60, and then I had this one at 57, but I feel like those 3 episodes in between, there's like probably like a break off point. Lewis in the Middle might be like the first or second episode in like the next tier of my ratings. So
in my original review, I agree with everything I said still. I wrote this last year, my original review for the episode. It's always interesting now for me to look back at what I wrote and see what sort of headspace I was in when I had ranked it and reviewed it. So I still totally agree with what I said. When I had finished watching it, I had a really good time watching it. I watched it with Mom again, and she had a really good time with it as well. And I was like, oh God, I couldn't remember where I ranked it. And I was like, please don't tell me I ranked this like super low. And when I checked and saw it was 44, I was still happy with that.
Yeah.
Because what I said that the episode is pretty neutral. It's not bad at all, but it's not totally amazing. I said it's genuinely very neutral and easily could have been placed anywhere on the list, but I just decided to go with 44.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not really the word I want to say is offensive.
Yeah, it's not bad. It doesn't do anything bad. Like it's just kind of there. It might be like number 1 on the most just there episodes for me of Even Stevens, like the ones that I just always forget about, which is weird because it has a one-off, and usually the one-off character episode you kind of tend to remember more. But I think it's just because Blake Thompson he's kind of a jerk, but he's not like June Marie type of jerk. He's just kind of like full of himself and like not very nice, you know. So I've been starting to do this thing where I watch the episode first and then try to think of where I would have had it ranked. And then, so I did that with this, and I was like, I'll probably have it in like the 40s. And then I looked and it was 57, and I was like, wow, that's lower than I thought. Yeah. And then I realized that this is Even Stevens in that, like, I have to have it somewhere. I was like, probably 57 is where I'd keep it.
I'm actually pleasantly surprised with 44. I was like, yeah Brittany, 2 years ago when you compiled this list, like, I'm still okay with that.
I always wanted to know, did you make the list like ahead of time?
I did. Okay. But as I went on, I made like subtle changes because I tried to do reviews once a week, even though I totally failed at that. But, you know, I tried to keep posting the reviews pretty consistently over the course of 2 years or so. So what I did was I binged the whole series. Then when I finished binging it, I went through the list of episodes, compiled a list that I thought was pretty solid. And then in between reviews, I would sort of reevaluate the list over and over as I would go each week and make subtle changes here and there. As I got closer to number 1, though, and I was running out of episodes to switch around, I started getting a whole lot of anxiety.
Well, because you're like, well, I'm at like number 3, like maybe I want to throw this episode way farther down, and it's like, but I can't change that anymore, right?
No.
It's like ranking 65 episodes, I mean, and I've ranked now Boy Meets World, which I don't recommend to anybody.
Yeah, no, I can't believe
because that's
you did
160 episodes or about, like something like that.
No,
and then this one is 65, and that's probably about the most I'll do. But even 65 is a lot. Yeah, because you're talking a TV show. Each episode, it's like its own beast. Like there's so many different aspects to it, and it's just so hard. And then sometimes you watch an episode a lot and it's a great episode, and because you've seen it so many times you tend to rank it lower. Whereas an episode that you don't really see as much, you might tend to rank higher just because you're not as familiar with it. But even though it's not as good of an episode as the other one, so you have to keep that in mind too.
I think I did that with a fewer episodes. I think
I did that too. I mean, and I had to really like go back and like with a clean mind and be like, did I really want to rank this where I had it? But yeah, it's not an easy thing to do at all.
No. Much respect for you doing that with Boy Meets World.
I don't know what I was thinking.
No, yeah, but I think just wrapping up general thoughts, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think the Larry and Ren stuff is amazing.
Yeah.
I'm glad having that a little bit higher on the list. And I think there's some good development for, I just wrote The Gang.
Yeah.
Lewis, Twitty, and Tawny. And
Definitely.
it shows how strong their friendship is and, what sort of lengths they'll go to help each other.
Yeah.
And Blake is awful, but I really didn't mind him that much as a one-off here.
He was cool, yeah. I mean, I didn't mind him. He's probably like my favorite one-off in the Erich Van Lowe Saga. Mm-hmm. He did a really good job.
He really did a good not snobby, just, full of himself, arrogant.
Super arrogant.
Yeah. But yeah, and then there was also, I really liked, there's some subtle Lewis and Tawny stuff as well that we'll get into that I think is really effective, as well as just, displaying their relationship and how well she really understands him.
Yeah.
I think this was really kind of amazing. Yeah, so let's jump into these plot points here. So, this episode opens in the school cafeteria where Lewis starts doing Marlon Brando impressions. He did, I made her an offer she couldn't refuse. Okay, honestly, I think I might have to edit in his impressions back to back with the actual clips from the movies.
That's a good idea.
Because as we were doing it and he started doing these impressions, my mom said, "Those are terrible."
Hey, Lewis, dude, how'd you get that B in Miss Robeck's class?
You really want to know?
Yeah, man, that's kind of why I'm asking you.
Well, you really want to know how?
Oh, man. Here it comes.
I made her an offer she couldn't refuse.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
I could have been a contender.
I could have been a contender.
Stella! Hey, Stella!
I think they're supposed to be kind of not great.
Yeah.
As hilarious as Shia is, I think that he knows his limitations and he doesn't do impressions really.
No.
I think it was more just like an exaggerated, funny impression. I don't think it was meant to be like really good.
Yeah, I think that's what they were going for, but it's just so funny. I was just dying laughing.
Great.
My mom was like, "That was terrible." Like the way she said it.
It's like she expected so much more.
From a 7th grader. Yeah. And Tawny as well. It's great as he's about to break into the Godfather impression. Oh, man. Here it comes.
Sheriff Straight Man is top notch right now.
Oh, man, it's so good.
Yeah.
Then he goes into Stella or whatever when he tries to do that. And he flails his arms and whacks one-off character number 4 in the face, Blake Thompson.
Yep.
And I think it's kind of funny because we see Ivan here again, and he is Blake's lackey in this episode, which I think is kind of perfect because it shows that he's just so fickle. Like,
he doesn't care.
Yeah, he just goes with whoever is hot at the moment, So Blake Thompson's the it guy, so there's Ivan hanging on.
I wonder how Larry feels about that. I mean, maybe that's why he's so butthurt this whole episode.
Yeah. But I thought it was interesting how Ivan says, "You hit him in the face, man," and then Blake's like, "It's okay, as long as it's not the nose. Anything but the nose." I'm like, Lewis did hit him in the nose.
He hit him in the nose, yeah.
You hit him in the... Like, okay. Okay, I don't know what was going on with that direction. Like, yeah, let's hit him in the nose and have him say, "Oh, it's okay, you didn't hit me in the nose." I don't understand.
I don't know. Maybe he was trying to pretend like he wasn't hitting the nose.
Or maybe he just meant as long as you don't do serious damage to my nose.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, man, we're already thinking way too hard about this.
There's so...
There are way more important things.
The actor who played Blake Thompson, I looked it up. He's 20 years old in this episode.
Yes, yep. That's what I was going to say. He is 20 years old.
Playing a 14-year-old.
Yeah, and he not only that, though, he looks 35.
Yeah, and you might say to yourself, it's only 6 years difference between 14 and 20, but yeah, when it's 14 and 20, though, like, that's a huge difference. Those 6 years are, like, really, like, 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Especially, like, you're a 20-year-old adult playing a middle schooler. Like, maybe if you were a 20-year-old adult playing, like, a high school senior or something, maybe. But you're playing a middle schooler.
You're, like, not questionably through puberty yet. Like, we're not sure.
Yeah.
Apparently he is.
Oh, he's way through that. So that's basically that whole opening little bit. And then it cuts to another section of the cafeteria. So this whole opening scene is just partying it up in the cafeteria with just stuff going on. So Ren is student policy monitor, and she stands up to announce that she really wants to improve the cafeteria food. And Larry Beale decides to just completely cramp her style. I mean, he is being such a jerk. I mean,
for no reason. I mean, other than he's in love with her, but he doesn't gain
yeah,
anything.
I know. Honestly,
I don't understand why he's so adamant about it.
Yeah, he's just every single thing she says, he comes back with like a snarky, thing to interrupt her with. I mean, I will say I did laugh. Like, I think he's obnoxious here. I don't think he's funny. Like, the rest of the cafeteria is laughing. But I did laugh when she's like,
Now I'm your policy monitor, and I am here to serve you.
In that case, can you bring me another piece of chocolate cake? Thanks.
like, I did laugh.
They zoom in on this random extra.
I was going to say that!
They focus on him for like a hot 5 seconds. Like, this is one extra awkwardly being told to laugh by the director, and he's just giving his best fake laugh.
Yep, that stood out to me. Oh my God. But yeah, so basically Larry's just being a total jerk and getting on Ren's last nerve, and I don't blame her. I mean, that's pretty much it. Yeah, and then we're still at the cafeteria. It cuts back to Lewis's little land of the cafeteria, where Blake Thompson is standing nearby, and he is just completely bragging about himself and his past achievements. And, one time I did this commercial, blah, 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 blah. What's he say? He's like, I do all my own stunts. I don't use any of that CGI stuff.
Yeah, apparently 14-year-old Blake Thompson does his own stunts.
Oh, man. It cuts to Lewis, Twitty, and Tawny sort of observing Blake, being all arrogant. And Twitty says, yeah, so Blake did a Doc Diener's hot dog commercial a few years ago. Apparently, doing a hot dog commercial is enough to warrant low-level local celebrity treatment in Sacramento, because everyone's treating this guy like he's such a celebrity. And I'm like, I guess that's all it takes in this town. Just do a few commercials. The Doc Diener's thing is...
Always stuck in my head.
Is this sort of like our first inappropriate joke of the series?
It's the first really blatant one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Lewis is all, oh yeah, Doc Diener's, Doc Diener's. Yeah, I remember that commercial. I remember the song. It goes, if it's not Doc Diener's, you're just eating wieners. That's one thing alone to sing that jingle. But then Lewis turns to Tawny and says,
You remember that commercial? I don't eat wieners. Okay.
What? Okay. Wow, yeah. And Lewis is just like, oh, okay. Sure.
Is Jim Wise involved in these earlier episodes?
I don't know, but I feel like he probably was. I don't know. But yeah, so that line really stood out, and always stood out to me. But I'm like, wow, okay, Disney, really pushing the envelope. But yeah, it's also great the way Tawny says it. Like, she's almost as if she knows the double meaning, Yeah.
She's not happy with it, but she has to say it anyway.
But yeah, so then Blake's, he's in the middle of saying something arrogant again, and he starts coughing on this piece of steak. And I do love the way Lewis is looking at him, and he goes, oh, what is that, Shakespeare? And, and Tawny's like, oh, I think he's choking. And on closer inspection, he's like, oh my God, he is choking. And I love the way Lewis just suddenly starts rattling off like EMT knowledge of like, he just knows everything. He's like, okay, Tawny, go to the safety poster. Twitty, boil some hot water. Like, boil some water.
I never understood. I understand now what it means, but I didn't understand my whole life what that means.
I mean, I don't understand it either still, because like on TV.com under trivia, it said...
It has to do with when you're pregnant and you're supposed to like, I think it has to do with Like, I don't know. Also, Lewis kind of does this too on the in the Stevens Jeans episodes where the kid falls.
Right,
and he's like,
yeah.
He's like, you call 911. You something.
Yeah, it's like the medics come over and he's telling them what to do. He's like, oh, don't take off his shoe. Just wrap the cast around the shoe. Yeah. But he just knows.
Yet Eileen won't let him babysit Twitty's brother.
Yeah, but he seems to be very well prepared when it comes to medical knowledge. It's kind of interesting the way they've had Lewis be knowledgeable about this kind of stuff more than once. Were they like not knowing what sort of field they wanted Lewis to go into, and like let's throw some medical stuff in there in case Lewis ever wants to become a doctor. Oh man, yeah. But then there was also sort of another inappropriate thing here too, when he goes behind Blake and and Tawny's like, thrust, and he's like, I'm thrusting. I really wish I wasn't an adult and didn't notice this, visual mixed with that dialogue.
Part of me feels like they don't mean it to be like that, but who knows?
I know. Some of the stuff they do is so blatant though that I'm like, maybe they do know. Like, I don't know.
Like, you think the if we're picking up on this stuff, you think the executives at Disney are watching this and be like, okay. Yeah, that's fine.
It's interesting.
That's perfectly fine. So
Lewis is giving Blake the Heimlich trying to help him from choking, and he ends up saving him, and it's always really gross. There was like that, it's kind of like the only surreal sort of thing in this episode where the piece of steak goes flying out of Blake's mouth directly into Ivan's mouth, and it's a very CGI piece of steak flying through the air, and it lands in Ivan's mouth, and he eats it, and he's like, needs salt. Anyway, yeah, that was always really disgusting.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
But yeah, so Lewis, I guess, saved Blake's life. Blake calls him a genuine hero. It cuts to another scene here. Lewis is sort of part of Blake's posse now. They're walking around school together and everyone's clapping because, Lewis is such a hero. And Blake decides to welcome Lewis with open arms into his entourage, which, again, this dude is so full of himself.
It's one person, entourage.
It is only Ivan. But it's so funny. Like, my mom and I were just laughing. Where he's like, as of right now, you're officially part of my entourage. I'm like, who says that? Anything you want to say?
No, but you keep going.
Was there, because it looked like you were going to bring something up.
Oh, no, I wasn't. That's the thing about this episode, too, for me. There's just not a lot that I have to say. Like, every episode, I feel like I've had a lot of notes. This one, I was trying to figure out stuff to say. Later, I mean, when you get to the Twitty Tawny stuff, probably more so, but yeah, I don't know.
Well, that actually is right around here. We get like the first sort of thing of that. So Lewis is in the hallway at his locker with Blake and Ivan's acting as Lewis's servant now, cleaning up everything that fell out of his locker. And Lewis starts doing his Marlon Brando impressions for Blake, and he's really just sort of enjoying the moment of seeming relevant to this popular guy. And Twitty and Tawny are down the other end of the hallway, and they're sort of observing Lewis from afar. And this is, again, I think this is like the first thing here with Tawny where she says,
Lewis saved the guy's life, and it's pretty big news. But I know that whenever Blake and his little showbiz pals are involved, there's got to be trouble.
Twitty, don't worry. No one knows a real Lewis better than I do, and deep down, he's classy, caring, very, very intelligent.
Honestly, that's true.
Yeah, it is true. He's super smart. Yeah. I mean, pretty much all funny people are smart, right? So, and plus he knows, he knows how to make machines and stuff. Like, he's built stuff, and he's super smart. Yeah. It's just, I mean, this might be one of the first times, too, maybe one other time where you see Twitty and Tawny interact.
Right.
Not be with each other, but like straight up like have like just by themselves a conversation. Yeah. And she gives him a flower, which I have never understood.
Yeah, I never understood that either. But Tawny's weird, so I'm like, she had a flower on her.
You're like, whatever, it's Tawny.
I'm not going to question it.
But I just love, like, we've seen Twitty in a couple other episodes, but he's concerned about him, and you can tell that like he's like a brother to him. Whereas the other 2 episodes, he was just kind of like the friend, or 3 episodes, he was just kind of like the friend. Mm-hmm. But this one, like, it takes it to another level, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. I also really like the way AJ says this one line where he's like, I know whenever Blake and his little show pal buddies are involved. Like the way he says it, I really love it. He's like, I know there's got to be trouble.
It's a very Twitty way of saying things. Like, AJ has his own delivery, I think, with everything. that he kind of just like kind of makes up his own way of saying lines, which I love. If someone else said it like that, it would feel not right, but he says it, it's like, yeah, that's Twitty.
It just makes me happy every time he says that line. I don't know why. I was just smiling.
I love Twitty.
But yeah, I do think what the words Tawny used to describe Lewis do describe Lewis, though. He's, I don't know, classy. But no, I mean, he knows when to be...
He can be classy.
You know, yeah.
Yeah.
And caring.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely see that at times, even though he can be selfish sometimes. But
but with Tawny especially, he's super caring.
Yeah, but so Twitty and Tawny both decide that they're going to keep an eye on Lewis because they're, sort of worried for him. They can tell he's going down his arrogant streak of, I'm becoming popular now. And, we see him do that a few more times throughout the series. Yeah, he tends to go through these little phases a lot.
You give him an inch, he takes 100 miles.
So then it cuts to a scene at home. I'm guessing it was that night, right? With Ren and Lewis. And I really liked this scene. I like any scene where you really see them interacting as siblings and and you see them, being there for each other and just having like real conversations. I just feel like it makes everything feel, more grounded and more real.
You need at least one scene per episode, I think, with Lewis and Ren, and I think for the most part you get that.
Yeah, so Lewis comes downstairs, Ren is in the kitchen, and he comes downstairs with his little fake teeth in, doing an Austin Powers impression, and it's just kind of funny, he's kind of grossing out Ren a little bit, and I don't know, it's just, it's great, and he tells her, she's getting really worked up about Larry Beale being a jerk, and Lewis tells her to not take it so seriously and just have fun with her policy monitor job. And, maybe if she wasn't so uptight, Larry Beale wouldn't have anything to tease her about. And yeah.
They kind of break character a couple times.
Yep. Nope. Yeah.
And the director also makes a point to kind of just glimpse at it real quick. Like, he doesn't have to go back to Lewis when he kind of like breaks into a smile. Yeah. But he still goes back to it. It's another thing I liked about Jonathan Winfrey's direction. He's not afraid to kind of show those moments too. I liked it. No, that always stood out to me as well. And then after him and Ren have this conversation, he pops the Austin Powers teeth back in and says, "Baby," and runs away. And Ren's just like, "Ew." That's great.
And Christy sort of laughs a little bit too.
I love it. Yeah,
it's great. Yeah, so then it cuts to the next scene where it's at lunch outside and Lewis is like telling some jokes to some popular girls, I'm assuming.
And we get some weird like documentary style shot.
Yes, oh my God.
Or Blake's on the phone.
Yep, thank you.
And you get this weird like documentary style shot. It's like the only time I can remember it happening. I mean, I'll probably notice it now if it happens again, but in this episode, for sure, it was the only time that happened.
Yeah.
It was bizarre. I don't know. It was super random.
Yeah. Thank you. This is amazing. Like, I feel like we're getting on like the same wavelength with stuff we notice.
Yeah.
Because I was going to write that down, but I was like, maybe it's not that important. But then you mentioned it. So I was like, thank you.
I almost didn't write it down, but I was like, I'll just write it down, whatever.
Yeah, because it made me happy. Because like I've said though before that I love mockumentary style stuff. Yeah. And I just sort of loved the way they were doing it. Like when I noticed it, I was like, why are they doing this? Like, why are they like hiding in the bushes, zooming in on Blake and moving the camera around?
And I tried again ad nauseum to think about what the artistic decision was behind it. I don't know if I can come up with anything besides the fact that I don't know, like...
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was kind of funny. I think maybe this is how I saw it. Yeah, so Blake Thompson's on the phone with his mom, but we don't know that until the very end of the phone conversation, which I always thought was hysterical when I was a kid.
No, that is not something that I'm going to be doing. Because, I mean, you know who I am? I mean, it's not going to happen. No. The kind of thing that I would do. No, you're not listening to me. What I'm saying is just not what happens with Blake Thompson. It's just not going to... If Blake Thompson doesn't feel that it would be good for him, I don't think Blake Thompson should have to do it. I mean, do you know what I'm saying? And I'm a very important person, and this is not the kind of thing that I would do. No, you're not listening to me. What I'm saying is it's not going to happen. No. Okay, no. Okay, fine, Mom, you win. I'll clean my room. Jeez, I gotta go.
Yeah, it's funnier when you're a kid though, right?
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, it's his mom. He doesn't want to clean his room. Yeah.
Because they ramp it up, making it seem like he's such a celebrity and he's on the phone disputing some sort of contract. And it's really intense. And in the end, it's just his mom was really trying to get him to clean his room.
And once you realize that, you kind of see how what he was saying on the phone, it was kind of like he was kind of overdoing it a little bit on the phone.
Obviously.
Once you realize it's like, oh, that it kind of is weird that he was no. That's just something that Blake Thompson does not do. Like, it was like, why would he say that?
Well, that's the thing. It was just always hilarious to me because I think it's also poking fun at the fact that he's such a low-level celebrity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, like, this is his sort of issue that's like, he makes it seem so much bigger.
And if you think about it, I mean, this might even, and it kind of circles back around, like, this kind of might be his 15 minutes of fame. There's a lot of people who are in, kind of famous, like when you're younger, like they're in a commercial or like whatever, like they get old, they don't do anything after that. That's like all they do. But that was their 15 minutes of fame, which is kind of interesting. It kind of goes back around later in the episode.
And it's kind of funny. I had written in my review, this is where I pointed out how old Blake Thompson looks. And I said, this dude is like 35 years old and in the 8th grade. I said, I guess that's what happens when hot dog commercials are your top priority. Oh my God. Yeah. So, but yeah, how I looked at the whole documentary camera thing, I think it was like just showing us, oh, here's this celebrity, like we're like this paparazzi from the bushes, sort of looking at what this guy is doing, and then in the end, it's nothing important at all. you know?
I kind of had that thought too. That's a good one too. Yeah, that's probably what it was.
I guess they don't really show us what Lewis is saying to that group of people at lunch. Like, he has the big nose, mustache, glasses on.
The Groucho Marx. Yeah.
And, he's wearing those and he's doing whatever. I don't know what he's doing. He's throwing glitter all over people with a giant bucket.
Yeah, you can kind of hear him say, oh, you thought it was water, like to one of the girls.
Really?
Yeah, you can kind of hear it. It's super faint. And then another time he does that, he like starts a joke, but you never hear any of the rest of the joke. But yeah, it's
just sort of faint from far away. And yeah, it is sort of from Blake's perspective. I think maybe is it him just noticing like that Lewis is annoying to him from afar and he just doesn't care about him. And I don't know.
I think he's threatened now because people actually think Lewis is funny, like those girls do, and like Ivan even likes Lewis now. I mean, and Lewis obviously like has that annoying little brother syndrome, which I love. But I think to Blake, it's easy to say that Lewis is annoying, but also he's threatened because he knows that even though he perceives him as annoying, he still is getting attention, and that's taking attention away from Blake.
Yeah, trying to get into Blake's head there.
Yeah.
But yeah, with Ivan, this goes back to his last appearance in Take My Sister, where he genuinely thought that Lewis and Ren were funny, and and in the end, when they end up winning and everything, he's in the wings clapping for them genuinely as well. Like, Ivan's a good guy. Like, we see him here, he runs over to Blake and he's like, oh, like, come listen to Lewis's jokes. This is really when it takes a sad turn, when Blake's like, dude, like, the guy's a loser. And Ivan, being so spineless, you can tell he's having such an internal struggle. He's like, looks back at Lewis because he wants to go back and have fun, but then he looks at Blake and he's like, oh, Blake's approval is more important. So yeah, man, you're right. Total loser. Just walks away. He just walks away from everything.
Blake thinks Ivan's a loser probably too.
I know. It's all sad, honestly.
Yeah.
That happens, and I guess Lewis decides it's time to wrap up his little routine with those people. So we see that Tawny was sort of spying and observing Lewis here. She kind of pops out and tells Lewis, like, you may not know this, but I'm fond of you. I wrote in my notes here, although I do think keeping it in production order, the episodes in production order, makes sense. I think maybe a reason why they switched episodes 5 and 6 is that Lewis and Tawny seem much closer in this episode.
That part makes more sense, yeah.
And, like she's saying, I'm fond of you, and they seem like much closer friends. I feel like if we had All About Yvette after this one, it would be a little weird for her to seem so cold towards him.
In that episode, yeah.
Yeah.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, like, the way she's really reluctant to babysit with him, and, she calls him lame, and, she just acts like she doesn't want to be there, and...
Where in this one, you can tell she's, like, really cares about Lewis and wants to be near him, yeah.
Yeah, and that she knows a lot about him, and I think in that sense, it makes way more sense to have this one come after that.
Yeah.
And so basically Tawny tells Lewis that, she's a little worried about him, she's a little concerned that he's become a pod person. When I was a kid, I never understood what the heck that meant. I was completely in the dark about this whole reference, and it's, of course, a reference to Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which they also reference another time in the series, but they don't say Body Snatchers. Lewis says Invasion of the Body Switchers.
Which episode?
In Rengate.
Does he?
Yeah, at the very end.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, he's just like...
Why couldn't you just follow the rules, Ren?
You just sounded like me.
Yeah. It's like the invasion of the body switchers.
Oh, he did. Yeah, dude. Oh, man, that's crazy.
Yeah, so I always made the connection that they referenced that more than once.
I like it.
But yeah, of course he says switchers instead of snatchers because, I don't know, copyright.
Maybe.
Yeah, I never knew what pod person was, and I wrote in my review that I remember when I was a kid, I thought they were saying pot person.
Oh my God.
I don't know why. And I was like, is Lewis doing drugs? Like, I didn't know what was happening. I thought
even Stevens, that's like a after school special right now.
I thought they were taking a Degrassi turn. I was like, wow, this is getting intense. Because the conversation has a very serious vibe to it,
Yeah.
Like Tawny's very concerned, and Lewis is clearly offended. He's like, oh, you're just jealous or whatever that I have new friends. You don't want me to have new friends. And she's like, oh, you're taking it the wrong way. But I never understood why Lewis says, maybe you're the pod people. What?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. Like,
I think he doesn't know what pod people means. And he's just like...
Maybe he's just like me. He has no idea.
No, you're a pod person.
Maybe he's taking tips from Look Smart, Be Smart and repeating the same thing back. He's just like, maybe you're the pod people. Did you bump my head on a dictionary? Oh, man.
That's one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah, we're getting way ahead of ourselves with other references from the show. But yeah, so I mean, that's pretty much that scene. Yeah, so for the next scene I have written down here, Ren earlier had told everyone to put a suggestion, like write down any suggestions they have for the school cafeteria into a little suggestion box. So at this scene, we see her and Charlotte at the Stevens house, and they have the suggestion box, and they're like, oh my God, the suggestion box is full. This is so awesome. We got the kids to care about everything. We're so excited to read everything. And turns out Larry Beale stuffed the box with nothing but insults towards Ren. And I mean, like, really bad, like, insults, like...
Things would certainly improve in the cafeteria if Ren Stevens would keep her skinny butt out of here.
Don't tell me. Larry Beale. Can you please do something about the tuna casserole? It smells like Ren Stevens' breath. Signed, Lawrence Anthony Beale.
Best way to improve the cafeteria is for Ren Stevens to eat outside.
Don't tell me.
Beale.
Larry stuffed the box. I'm so sorry, Ren.
I mean, Larry stuffing the box wouldn't have been as bad if there were some other suggestions from other students, and it was just like, oh, here's another one from Beale. Oh, cool, here's some real suggestions. Like, but the fact that it was just 100% Larry Beale, and that he had previously gotten people to not care about what Ren wanted to do, that's why I think it was so aggravating.
Yeah. It's a pretty sad scene.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, though. It's like, I love the idea of Ren and Larry together, but then he does these things that are just so bad. I mean, it's because I would hate to say, oh, it's just because he likes her, because that's a terrible mindset to have, Well,
yeah. But when you're 13, 14, like, I mean, that's how people are. You know what I mean? Like, you tease the person that you like usually. I mean,
yeah, but it is sort of a dangerous mindset to like raise people to think. It's like,
yeah.
Oh, if they're horrible to you, it means they like you.
Sure, yeah. That might be why they chose not to go in that direction.
Exactly. Yeah. That was something I always thought, that I was like, that might not be the best message. Larry treated her terribly, but they're going to end up together. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. But then they throw stuff in, like what we see later in this episode. And I'm like, why are you doing that then? You know?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they probably toyed with the idea because I think it would have been fine if, you know, Larry apologized and like, you know, I've always been real like a jerk and stuff. And like, I hope that you can forgive me. And like, they get together and then Larry is not mean anymore. Like, I think that would have been fine because it's like, okay, yeah, like he didn't treat her poorly when they're together and he apologized and all that stuff. So like, I think that would have been fine. So I think they're probably toying with that as an idea and maybe like giving themselves an option for that and planting the seed early. But
because I think like we totally see that side of him in Raiders.
That was 2 seasons later though.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I'm saying.
Weird.
So like towards the end, they had the opportunity to still go that route.
Yeah, they don't, because they don't even really come close any other time. I can't think of any other time.
No, but I mean, but there's just always the tension between them.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
you know, so.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to point out about this scene, though, is that this is where we hear Larry's full name for the first time.
Yeah.
He signed all of the slips, Lawrence Anthony Beale.
Same initials as my son.
Oh.
LAB.
All right.
Weird.
Anthony and Stevens and stuff pops up so much, and now even we got a connection to that. You got a connection to the
weird.
initials.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I wanted to point out when we were talking about how Anthony and everything pops up a lot. We had mentioned Stephen Anthony Lawrence without like giving any further explanation. I'm like, yeah, Stephen Anthony Lawrence plays Beans, for those of you that don't know.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting how literally his full name has a connection to everything in the show.
Yeah.
So Stephen for the Stevens, and then Anthony for the middle name of both Larry and Lewis, and then Lawrence for Lawrence Junior High and Larry's first name.
It's weird. It's so weird.
It's really weird.
It's literally just a coincidence.
It's very strange. It was meant to be. So the next scene is Lewis going up to Blake in the hallway doing his Austin Powers impression, and Blake has had enough. He hates Lewis, basically. It sort of breaks my heart. You know,
Yeah.
Lewis is really excited to have these new friends, and he's, you know, testing out this material with them now, and Blake just hates it. He just tells him,
That's gagalicious, baby.
It's old and tired, baby.
That was good.
Thanks for the compliment. Now beat it. I'm getting sick of you.
You said you liked my Godfather.
How many times do I have to watch you die? I mean, you're like a mosquito that keeps biting me.
I don't know if you forgot, but I saved your life.
That's right. You saved my life, so I tolerated you. But now, your 15 minutes of fame are over. Listen, you go back and hang with your friends, and I'll go hang with mine.
Lewis is like, I saved your life. And he's like, yeah, so I tolerated you. I'm like, oh, that's so bad.
Everyone watching this show loves Lewis. And like, we don't think he's annoying. Like, we think he's hilarious. And just the fact that they had a character, I mean, it's not the fault of the show, I guess. It's just always bothered me that there was somebody who
Didn't like Lewis, yeah.
Lewis. I don't know. You know, I think maybe that's why I ranked it lower. Part of the reason, but
no, I understand
anyway.
that. But
Yeah.
I mean, this is just this one guy, like, and I can understand because you've said before that like Lewis has the annoying little brother thing going
Sure,
on,
yeah.
and that's like part of his personality, especially early on, you know. So for someone else that's not related to him and whatever to have to deal with him, it would probably be like, I hate you, you know.
Oh man, Lewis and I would be best friends.
I say all the time that I want a Lewis Stevens in my life.
Yeah.
I would absolutely love to be best friends with someone like him.
It'd be amazing.
Yeah, so pretty much Blake totally dumps Lewis, and yeah, except Lewis sort of alienated Twitty and Tawny, so he kind of doesn't have friends to go crawling back to right away.
Yeah, I like it because like Lewis actually has friends that he could go back to, whereas Blake doesn't have friends.
Really, yeah.
So it's just it's kind of it's cool that it shows that dichotomy.
So the next scene is Lewis sitting on the steps at school, and he's sort of depressed, obviously, because Blake just dumped him. And Twitty comes over and...
What? Also, did you notice Twitty picked something like green off of Lewis's pants?
What?
I always wondered what because in the quality of the thing I have, I can't tell.
Hang on, I gotta see this.
It's like towards the beginning.
Yeah, I do see it.
Do you know what that is? I can't
don't
even tell
know.
what it is.
It looks like it's like a handkerchief
or
or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
something. I was trying to figure it out.
That's actually kind of cool, though, watching that back, because it seems like AJ genuinely didn't know what it was, but he was, the acting is so good on this show that he plays it off, and he just sort of stares at it and just flicks it away or whatever.
And that's another thing, another thing that Jonathan Winfrey, the director, does. He keeps it in, and I like it. And that's what I love about Even Stevens is just those little small details that aren't meant to be there, but they're still there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that stuff definitely helps make the show special. Mm-hmm. So we get another surreal sort of thing here where Twitty wonders if there's, any bad blood between Lewis and Blake, which why would he ask that though? Did he notice the falling out? Because I don't think we get a scene where Twitty notices or knows that something went wrong.
Maybe it's just because he's sitting by himself.
Maybe.
Previously he had just been with Blake all the time.
Right. Maybe, but that might be a little error we caught there.
Yeah, definitely.
Twitty is concerned that, something, maybe Lewis and Blake had a falling out, and Lewis is really overcompensating, and he's like, oh, no, we're tight. Blake's waiting for me around the corner. I gotta go. Even though, Blake is not waiting, and... It cuts to a surreal sort of thing where Lewis is standing with a rain cloud over his head, just being drenched in rain in the school hallway.
Yeah.
Why? Why did we cut to that? I don't...
It's probably the most random part of the episode. It's not like it's it's kind of just forgettable.
I never understood the point of it. I was like, I don't like it. I don't know.
They're like, oh, I discovered how to make a fake rain cloud. Let's try it out. That's probably what happened.
It's like music videos in the 90s and early 2000s that use so many special effects. Like they just started discovering that they could do all of this stuff, and they just say, why not? I think the best example of that is the Livin' La Vida Loca music video.
I don't remember that.
Look that up sometime, because they use every special effect in the book in every weird transition and morph you can think of. And it's amazing.
The 90s was the renaissance for special effects.
And just discovering technology.
Yeah.
So the next scene... we get a wonderful mirror talk, and I love these. And something I really like about this one is, we see Lewis just killing time in his room. I kind of like that.
I love it, yeah.
You just see him just being sort of lost in his bedroom.
Yeah, he's like reading the magazines.
Moving from his bed to the floor, to the desk, to the whatever.
He's just laying on his bed at one point and just like pondering life on his bed for like 2 seconds.
Yeah, just like...
It's a good scene.
And then I like the way it shows us that and then cuts to a mirror talk because, it's like getting into Lewis's head a little bit.
With the little microphone, too. He's got the ribbon mic.
Yep. I love that, too, the way he sort of treats this mirror talk as if he's doing stand-up or something.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good mirror talk.
Yeah, I like it.
He says...
Okay. For those of you keeping score at home, my new friends, they don't like me. My old friends... they don't like me. So I guess the score is friend 0, Lewis really 0. I don't know. I guess maybe next time I'll think twice before I save a guy's life. Okay.
Yeah, so something that always stood out to me, though, is when he says, maybe next time I'll think twice before I save a guy's life. I'm like,
it's a great
that's
line.
Horrible. That is a horrible way to live.
But it's an awesome line, like... because when you're 13, these are the lessons you learn in life. And like he's consciously saying it, but subconsciously, that's what people think. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like when they do a good deed and like when you're 13 and what Matt Dearborn said, and you're selfish when you're a kid. Mm-hmm. And when you do a good deed and it backfires, you subconsciously think, well, maybe I shouldn't do that next time. Like, so next time you have the opportunity, you think twice.
I know, but it's just...
not that you won't do it, you just think twice about it.
Right.
You remember what happened last time. It's like funny, but at the same time, it's like very real. Like,
yeah, I definitely do think it's real, and that's what makes this mirror talk one of my favorites. It's just like, Lewis being sort of mature and really, self-reflecting about the situation. And I don't know, but yeah, just as I just thought of that line more, though, I was like, great. So if a person's dying, you're going to think twice about it and not help them because, later on it might negatively affect my life.
But he still tries to, but for selfish gain as well.
Yeah. So the next scene, here we go, man. This is the Ren and Larry pinnacle of...
This is the weirdest. This is the most bizarre scene.
But I mean, wow. Like, as Mom and I were watching it, she was like, oh my God, like totally there is something there. Like, it's crazy.
100%.
So Larry comes over to the Stevens house to apologize to Ren, which is nice. And, he comes over and he's like, yeah, I think I should apologize. And Ren's sitting there watching The Old and the Beautiful, which obviously they couldn't say Bold and the Beautiful, I guess. She's watching a soap opera. And the important thing before this is that Larry finds out that Ren officially resigned from public service. And
yeah.
So, and he's clearly upset about it. Like, you see that he's upset. Like, he didn't want that to happen. He realized that, he didn't want Ren to just totally give up. His taunting is supposed to motivate her in his mind? I don't know.
I think also he feeds off of this rivalry more than Ren. Like, I think Ren would be perfectly fine if the rivalry didn't exist. Whereas Larry wants the rivalry.
Mm-hmm. He comes over to the house to apologize and says the most dramatic, deep thing where, he's like...
So you're just going to give up? Look, ever since 5th grade, we've been competing against each other, and I've been beating you.
In your dreams, Beale.
Now, what I'm trying to say is that you can't stop trying. If there's no Ren Stevens, there's no Larry Beale.
What?
I don't know. He says, we've always been competing and I've always won, is what he says too. It's like, why you're trying to get her to come back? Why are you being still a jerk about it?
I don't know. Well, I mean, it's part of their thing. I don't know. But it's
a weird scene. It's such a weird scene.
But then to say that without you, there is no me. I'm like, wow,
Things got real.
Things got really real. I'm like, okay. And, and so he's like, okay, yeah, well, I think even he was like, okay, I'm getting a little too deep there. I should go now. So
yeah.
He's about to leave and Ren invites him to stay and watch the rest of the soap opera. And he says,
no, I think I had enough soap operas for one day.
But he says it with the slyest little smile.
That's the weird part.
And he sort of looks Ren up and down a little bit with this little smile on his face, like, "Hey," and I'm like,
how? Yeah, it's like, how is this a soap opera? You just came over, taunted Ren, and begged her to come back because there would be no more you, and then.
Well, because he was getting really dramatic,
I guess. It's always just a weird line to me.
And it's a romance soap opera. Maybe that was hinting at the fact that he felt the romance between them. Because then they cut to Ren and she's super blushy. And she's trying to figure out what just happened. You see her sort of look away and then she turns back and she looks a little confused. But she's smiling and I don't know.
It's weird that they never took anything from it.
Yeah.
Literally nothing happened from it.
But it is a really intense scene, and I think the chemistry and whatever's going on there is really noticeable.
We need to get Mark Fink, the writer, on this podcast.
Oh, yeah. Find him.
Along with Jewel and...
Okay, along with pretty much everyone, every character. That's the goal.
Yep.
So the next scene, they're at a car wash, and I always wondered what was the point of this car wash, and I paused the episode to look at the car wash sign. Did you do that?
No, I didn't. What did it say?
It's $5 per car, and it's to help support the Wombat Preservation Society.
In Australia?
Well, the wombat is their school mascot.
Yeah.
So they're looking out for the wombat, and
that's a pretty good detail. I like it. That's what I love about this show. It's so random and hilarious.
Yep. Because I was confused. I was like, why are they doing a car wash? What is this for? And I was like, do they ever tell us? So like they make a point to hang on that sign for like a split second. So I was like, let me pause and see what it says.
And how old is the guy who's throwing soap on the car, by the way?
He has to be in his 30s.
He's like balding. I'm pretty sure he's in his 40s.
Well, maybe he was a teacher or something. I don't know. Maybe he's helping out.
Maybe.
But yeah, so they're at this car wash and Blake comes walking out of the school and he's like standing behind a car and the car starts backing up so slowly and Lewis looks at it and he's like, this is my chance. So he goes running over to Blake thinking that he's, pushing him out of the line of fire. And right as he does that, the guy that's about to throw water on the car ends up throwing the water all over Blake. So it does backfire once again. He should have thought twice before saving a guy's life, I guess, then.
That's what I'm saying.
Because something negative happened and Blake is so mad. But I love how Lewis is like,
I just saved your life. The car was coming out, and he was backing up right into you. It's gonna crush you.
Look at me.
I'm a genuine hero. I'm like Dudley Do-Right. I'm saving your life over and over and over.
Stay away from me forever.
I'm like Dudley Do-Right. I'm saving your life over and over and over. It's only happened twice. But okay.
I just love his facial expressions when he's doing it. I mean, you feel for him though. Like you're like this kid. He like just really wants to be accepted. And
Speaking of that cuts right away to Twitty and Tawny washing a car and observing what just happened.
Yeah.
And this is a great, great, great line that they gave Tawny. It makes me so happy that they gave her this because it shows how well she knows him.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, I've seen this sort of thing before. She has that funny line about
freak nasty.
My mother had a patient like this once. 76-year-old man woke up one morning and told his wife he only wanted to be called freak nasty.
Are you serious?
Lewis's constant craving for approval combined with his youngest child syndrome has basically split his personality in two.
So, what are we gonna do?
We've got to shock him back into reality.
that Lewis's constant craving for approval mixed with his youngest child syndrome has split his personality in two, which I don't know what that means, but, you know, it's just the fact that she mentions that Lewis does have this constant craving for approval, which he does, and we've talked about this before.
He wants to be popular because he doesn't feel like he fits anywhere, and that's the whole theme of the show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's constantly searching for where he fits in, and this is just another. He's like, oh, finally, like, I found somebody. Like, it took me saving his life, but I still found somebody who wants to hang out with me. So he thinks, even though I think he subconsciously knows that it's empty and shallow, but he's like, I'll take it. This episode is actually way deeper than the first 5, I think.
Yeah, I know. That's part of the reason why I think it might be the best one of the 6.
Besides maybe Stevens' genes, I think, like, depth-wise, it's probably the deepest.
Oh, yeah. That Tawny line, man. I was like, yes, I'm so glad they gave her that line to show how well she really knows him.
Yeah.
And also for the show to acknowledge that. You know what I mean? That, yeah, Lewis is constantly looking for approval.
And it's a great tool to have her, because Tawny's parents are psychiatrists.
Yep.
You're able to utilize her analysis of Lewis a lot without making it seem super expository. Wasn't Gordo's parent? They were psychiatrists too, right?
Yep. Yeah.
They totally stole that from Even Stevens.
Yeah, because Lizzie McGuire, premiered the year after Even Stevens. So,
yeah.
Yep. And now the new show, Andy Mack, which was also written by Terry Minsky, who created Lizzie McGuire, she has now Andy Mack's best guy friend. Both of his parents are psychiatrists.
Yeah, it's a smart tool to use, though, because you have a friend who has a reason to analyze your personality.
Yeah, but I just think it's so
good.
funny that it's like one too many appearances in Disney Channel shows.
It's not a coincidence, folks.
But yeah, so Tawny basically decides that they have to go to drastic measures to shock Lewis back into reality. It cuts to Lewis riding his bike home past a sign that says, damsel in distress, 500 feet. Keeps riding, and then, this means you, Lewis. And he's like, well,
and Lewis
okay.
just like, okay.
I guess so. And rides his bike down the way it tells him to go. He comes across Tawny laying on this tiny little train track. And she's tied, but not tied, probably. She's just lying there with a rope around her on the ground. And I do really like the way it takes Lewis a minute to recognize her.
Yeah.
And then he's like,
Whoa, wait, Tawny? What the heck are you doing? Wait, this isn't another one of your protests, is it?
That's a good line.
because I'm like, again, and that shows them sort of knowing each other well, and how she's just super out there and weird with her activism and everything, that she would do some strange protest, tie herself to a little train track. And so she sort of, explains to him, untie the rope, save me from the evil Twitty, who comes who comes riding up on this train. So Lewis unties her from the tracks, saves her. I really, really, really like how Tawny says, in case you didn't notice, we just saved you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I again, it's really deep because, before that she tells him, please save my life and I will forever be your friend. To sort of do the whole Blake situation, but with his old friends.
Yeah, it's a smart strategy because you're basically resetting that mindset of we'll be your friends if you save us, but then we're really saving you. And this episode's super deep.
Yeah. It is.
This is even Stevens, where even the number 57 episode on my list is still an episode that I really like watching.
Mm-hmm. So after that, that's pretty much the end of the actual episode. And they end it by telling Lewis, I also love, there's a good line, because it gets a little deep, gets a little mushy, oh, we're friends. And Tawny says, yeah, I'm tearing up here.
Yeah.
And then a good Lewis and Tawny moment right after he saves her. And he says, is this the part where, you tell me I'm your hero and you kiss me? And she says, don't push it. I love that. Yeah, and it ends with them telling him,
Oh, yeah, and by the way, you owe us $30 for the train ride?
$30?
which is interesting too, because my mom, she was like, where'd they get the train? How do they have this?
Yeah.
I'm glad they at least sort of acknowledged that maybe they rented it or
they implied
something.
that it came from that they had to get it.
Yeah. See, again, a lesser show probably wouldn't have thrown a line in there to explain how the heck they got this working little train thing. And so then it cuts to the final minute thing, which is the very last scene. Again, sort of a Larry and Ren moment. She's up there trying to do her student policy monitor spiel again and tells everyone to fill out the forms and put it in the box. And Larry stands up for her and takes her side, and he stands up there and he's like, you heard the lady. If you have a suggestion, fill it out and put it in the box. And tells her, continue, Miss Policy Monitor. And they sort of smile at each other. And she's like, thanks, Larry. I don't know. I love it, though. They're so cute.
The fan fiction writers everywhere have so much ammo.
So then the very last shot is of Lewis, Twitty and Tawny at lunch, and she's like, I'm glad things are back to normal. And Lewis is just silent, and they're like, it is back to normal, right? So Lewis says, wait a minute, and sticks 2 carrots up his nose, and he's like, now they're back to normal. And Twitty spits out his drink, and Tawny just starts laughing and sort of gives Lewis... She also does the look here as well.
Yeah.
Margot Harshman with her slight looks here that we've been noticing.
I always wonder if Margot Harshman had a thing for Shia or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just how good she is at looking at him like that. Mm-hmm. It's weird. Because, and she's a great actress, but it's too easy for her, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think that's another thing, why Lewis and Tawny work so well as a couple. She's laughing very genuinely, but then she sort of stops in the middle of the genuine laugh to sort of give him this look like
an adoring look.
Oh, this kid.
Yeah.
you know?
I feel like there's something there.
Mm-hmm. It's really great. So that's the episode. Any more thoughts now that we've discussed it?
No, just same kind of stuff. It's way deeper than I remembered. Yeah, I liked it way better than the last time I watched it, I think.
Yeah, but I'm still okay with number 44. Yeah, moving on to some segments. MVP.
My non-Lewis MVP I have as Twitty and Tawny.
Yeah, I put Tawny.
Both really good. I put Twitty because I love the depth that's created between him and Lewis.
I didn't really notice that as much, though.
Just because as a guy, there's not, besides Boy Meets World, because that's kind of its own bromance. Like, bromances aren't really prominent in a lot of shows, but for a guy to be this concerned about his guy friend, and like to the point where just the look on AJ's face, Twitty's face, when he's in the hallway there and he's like, hey, we'll hang out sometime next week or whatever he says. And then Twitty's like, all right. Like, that's such a great moment that you don't see from guy friends in shows.
Right.
You see girls a lot of times like kind of like worried about their friend or their girlfriend or whatever. But like you don't see guys that concerned about their guy friends a lot in shows. And I just really love that in this episode.
Yeah, that sort of stood out to me as well. He looks sort of crushed, you know?
It's really deep for a guy, from a guy's perspective, and a young, like when I was 12 or 11 watching this. Like,
and I see, and that was another thing that I was excited about for this podcast. And a cool angle is that, you know, you have the guy perspective and I have the girl perspective.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
So it's time for some trivia.
Is it true? Did you know that?
For your information, is it true that...
What does that mean?
Writer Mark Fink, this is his only Even Stevens writing credit. He wrote an episode of Boy Meets World, the I Dream of Feeney episode from the first season.
Wait. Is that a Boy Meets World connection?
Yeah, I think so. And he also wrote 5 episodes of Full House, which I'm a big Full House fan. And then director Jonathan Winfrey, he directed 5 episodes of Even Stevens. He also directed Cousin Skeeter, I think 1 episode.
Oh man, that show, Cousin Skeeter.
I loved Cousin Skeeter. Oh my gosh.
Good. That theme song, and you know Skeeter flows, and then now to get a finger, cousin like a Skeeter. I don't know the words.
After Even Stevens ranked, we'll do Cousin Skeeter ranked.
Skeeter's what I want. Skeeter is what I need.
Man, I loved Cousin Skeeter.
That show was so bizarre.
It was so weird. His cousin was a puppet. Like, talk about surreal. Like, oh man, I just loved weird things when I was a kid. Like, I mean, I grew up on Pee-wee's Playhouse, so Cousin Skeeter was right up my alley. Jonathan Winfrey also directed a few episodes of Eddie McDowd, which there's a lot of connections between 100 Deeds for Eddie McDowd and Even Stevens.
Yeah, I don't think we haven't talked about that on the record though.
Yeah, like
Shia had originally filmed a pilot for 100 Deeds, Good Deeds for Eddie McDowd, and then for whatever reason they decided to completely recast the show. But yeah, that's a thing. So for my trivia, I thought it was interesting. Blake Thompson, who is played by Timothy Everett Moore, he was born on June 22nd, and so was I.
Oh, really? Oh, that's cool.
So I share a birthday with Blake Thompson.
Well, mine's June 25th. That's weird.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
No crap.
Get this. Okay, this is weird. So, do you know, my mom told me my due date was June 11th.
That's Shia's birthday.
Shia's birthday.
Oh my god.
We were so close to having the same birthday.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Another thing, there were like a few little like continuity things in this one.
Yeah,
but
sure.
the most noticeable one, Tawny's wearing a really thick choker when she's laying down on the train tracks, but then when she stands up, her choker is gone.
Yeah, it's weird. I didn't understand what that was about.
But I thought that was funny. I never noticed that before.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how the title of the episode, Lewis in the Middle, is probably supposed to be Malcolm in the Middle reference.
Yeah, that's my guess.
I just think that's interesting because I know a lot of people confuse the two shows.
Yeah, that's weird. I mean, they're both single camera, but...
I do see certain similarities, but for the most part, it's like, obviously, I can tell the difference between the two shows, but for some people... in their memory, like they get certain things confused. Like a lot of people thought that Shia was on Malcolm in the Middle instead of Even Stevens, and
yeah, I think it's the confusion comes from maybe Frankie Muniz and Shia having similar looks when they were younger, and they both used to wear those Hawaiian shirts a lot.
Yeah,
like the open Hawaiian shirts. So they kind of have the same style. I mean, that's probably where it stems from. But I mean, they're two completely different shows. I think as far as like the family dynamics, obviously, like,
and in tone as well. And the fact that like Malcolm like narrates it sort of, and
yeah, he talks to the camera. But I can see because Lewis is kind of like the oddball in his family.
Yeah.
And Malcolm's kind of the oddball in the fact that he's the most normal, I think.
Yeah.
Where the rest of his family is like weird, whereas it's flipped in Even Stevens, I think.
Yeah. Never thought about it that way. And then the last thing, which actually did stand out to me when I was watching it, in the cafeteria, Charlotte's like, I have to say, I have quite a taste for this meatloaf, but she's eating peas and carrots.
He's not eating meatloaf.
But then I looked closer, and it does look like there might be like a little chunk of meatloaf there. But still, like, to zoom in, and the main thing on the dish is just nothing but peas and carrots, and have her say that. It's like, why? Then for the last little bit of information, pop culture in this one, there was a lot.
There's a lot.
We have The Godfather, so Marlon Brando, and the different things that he was in. So The Godfather, On the Waterfront, Streetcar Named Desire. Then we have Austin Powers, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, The Bold and the Beautiful, Dudley Do-Right, Malcolm in the Middle, from the title, and then also Freak Nasty.
Freak Nasty.
I didn't know that he was a rapper that like had a hit in 1997.
Yeah. Freak Nasty.
And I think that's actually good though, because that reference, it just sounds like the person woke up and wanted to be called a random thing. Like, it doesn't.
But if you know the reference, it's funny, right? So, because you're like, why would he want to be called Freak Nasty?
Exactly. So, very quickly, I do have some tweets.
Oh, yes. This is my favorite.
Yeah, this is probably my favorite segment. Here's one. It is from @LittlePuncho. This is going to be weird to read this. Don't know what the heck he means. He says, I remember that episode of Even Stevens where he had them Austin Powers teeth in his mouth. Looking sorry den a hoe. No idea what he means.
That's great.
And he wrote, haha, as well. Don't know what that means.
As though we weren't clear that he was joking.
Yeah, looking sorry, den a hoe. Haha. I have no idea what that means. And then I just found some tweets about Ren and Larry. Nothing really specific about this episode, but just sort of to back up what we were saying. So this person, who, by the way, their username on Twitter is Lars Honeytoast.
Oh, sick. Heck yeah.
We got to get this person listening to the podcast. Clearly they're a fan of the show.
Yeah, if they're not already. Yeah.
They said, the loons at Disney Channel didn't even get Ren and Larry together in Even Stevens. WTF is up with that? They didn't deserve cutie Ty Hodges.
Big Ty Hodges fan.
And another person, @SoContagious19, says, okay, anybody else really wanted Larry and Ren to date on Even Stevens? Good chemistry there.
Definitely.
Yeah, so...
I knew I couldn't have been the only one. And then when I saw your stuff about it on your blog, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
It's apparently a thing that Ren and Larry should have been together.
Oh, yeah. And then, as always, to wrap this up, our best quotes. You went first last time, so I'll go first. I laughed a lot throughout the episode, but not necessarily at a specific line. I had to do a little digging. So I think, again, I have two. I know the whole point of this is for us to force ourselves to pick one.
Sometimes it's hard, though.
But I think I'm going to do my favorite and then an honorable mention. The one quote that I would pick, it's so subtle, it's so small, but I just love Shia's delivery and I just always laugh. It's when Tawny is spying on Lewis from the bushes at lunch, and Lewis walks by and says,
"What are you, chopping hedges?"
Like, oh man, I don't know, I just always laugh.
That's a good one.
And then my honorable mention is Twitty asks Lewis, didn't know if there was any bad blood between you and Blake. And Lewis says,
"No, there's no bad blood. There's no blood. Do I look like I'm bleeding?"
He has such a that kind of East Coast delivery sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
What are you, chopping hedges? Does it look like I'm bleeding?
He kind of has an accent too. It's like, what are you, chopping hedges?
Yeah, it's definitely comes from, I think, his comedian influences, maybe Rodney Dangerfield or Jay Leno or something like that.
Yeah. Your best quote?
Mine is hands down. It's I mean, like I said, like I want to compile like my top 5 quotes from this, at least like each season. This might be on it. It's in the mirror talk. He says, "For those of you keeping score at home, my new friends, they don't like me. My old friends, they don't like me. So I guess the score is friends 0, Lewis really 0."
It's weird though. I don't really get that though.
It's great. That's the best part, because you can't. His friends have 0 because they don't have him, but he has really 0 because he's really like has nobody. I don't know. I just love that quote. You can't have a score less than 0, but you could if you had like -1.
Negative.
But instead he doesn't go negative. He just says, "I'm really 0." I like the stuff I like about this show is like bizarre. I feel like a lot of people like the lines I like
are really obscure sometimes.
Yeah. That's why when like Dearborn was saying a lot of it's like broad humor, it is, but at the same time, a lot of the stuff I like about it is the subtle humor, like the stuff that's not really supposed to be the main joke or whatever.
Oh no, yeah, no. I mean, me too. Definitely a lot of the time, but
yeah.
So far, you've been pretty consistent with that, like picking like lesser thought of quotes. I think that's everything.
That's it, right?
Yeah, so that'll do it for us today, guys. So thank you so much for listening. Please, if you enjoy the podcast, feel free to leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to the podcast. We'd really appreciate it. And it's always nice to, we have 1 review right now and it was really nice to get. And I was like, oh,
yeah,
it's just nice to see that, you know, you guys like what we're putting out there. So yeah, follow on all the socials, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and even stevensrank.com, of course.
And write into us.
Oh, yeah.
Write into us with some questions or... As
usual, if you have anything you want to say, the mailbox is always open, like 24/7. It's always nice to get an email. And yeah, so we will see you guys in the next episode.
See ya.